Autumn in Seoul always arrives gently, as if the city deliberately lowers its volume so people can hear their own hearts more clearly. Ginkgo leaves turn yellow along the sidewalks of Hongdae. The wind carries the aroma of coffee from small cafes, and the sky is a pale blue like a canvas not yet finished. In the midst of that atmosphere, the friendship between Ji-hoon and Ara had grown for nearly 10 years, without either of them realizing that the most complicated feelings often hide in the safest place, between laughter and everyday habits. Ji-hoon and Ara first met in high school in Bizen, then moved together to Seoul to pursue their respective dreams. Ji-hoon chose architecture, fascinated by old buildings that survive among glass towers, while Ara studied Korean literature, falling in love with words and the meanings behind them. After graduating, they rented a small apartment in Mapojiunat because it was romantic, but because it was practical and cheap. From there, their lives flowed side by side, sharing simple breakfasts, watching dramas late into the night, and complaining to each other about days that felt too long. Ara was always the first to know when Ji-hoon failed a project presentation, and Ji-hoon always knew when Ara was writing poetry with a fractured heart. They were used to holding hands on crowded subway rides, not out of possession, but so they wouldn't get separated. The habit was so natural it was never given a name. To others, they looked like a couple, but to themselves, the word friend felt sufficient, safe and free of risk. Everything began to change when spring arrived, bringing someone new into their circle. Min-jae, Ara's co-worker at a small publishing house in Insadong, appeared with a calm smile and a thoughtful way of speaking. He often invited Ara to discuss books and poetry, and Ara, who rarely found someone with similar interests, began to look forward to his messages. Ji-hoon noticed these small changes without fully understanding his own feelings. There was a strange pause in their familiar habits, as if a rhythm that had long been steady suddenly lost a beat. One night, they sat by the Han River, gazing at the bridge lights reflected on the water. Ara talked about Min-jae in a different tone, softer, more careful. Ji-hoon smiled and listened, as he always did. But something heavy settled in his chest. He wanted to be happy for Ara, wanted to be a good friend. Yet an unfamiliar feeling crept in, not an explosive jealousy, but a quiet realization that there was a space in his heart, without him ever noticing. The following days were filled with an invisible distance. Ara came home later more often. Ji-hoon chose to stay at work longer. They still shared the same space, but their conversations grew shorter. Between the sound of the coffee machine and the noise of Seoul's nighttime traffic, each of them wrestled with the same question. Was their friendship strong enough to hold feelings that were changing? The conflict reached its peak on Ara's birthday. Ji-hoon prepared a small surprise in the apartment. Just like in previous years, a simple cake and candles he lit awkwardly. But Ara arrived with Min-jae, her face bright, though her eyes briefly searched for Ji-hoon, as if asking for unspoken permission. The night felt awkward. There was laughter, but it never fully escaped. When Min-jae left, silence filled the room. Ji-hoon finally spoke, his voice nearly swallowed, saying that he felt like he was losing his best friend. Ara looked at him for a long time, then tears fell without warning. The confession came not as an explosion, but as an honest whisper. Ara admitted that she was afraid of ruining their friendship if she acknowledged the feelings that had been growing for a long time, feelings she had buried to preserve comfort. Ji-hoon admitted the same, that love had been there all along, disguised in routines and small acts of care. They laughed bitterly, realizing how long they had been hiding behind the word friend. The decision did not come easily. They agreed to give themselves time, not rushing to change something that had been built over many years. Seoul kept moving beyond the window. Seasons changed once more. and they learned to recognize those new feelings carefully. They walked again through the streets of Hongdae, drank coffee at the same cafes, but now with a different awareness that every glance and touch carried a deeper meaning. Finally, on a winter night, the first snow fell softly over the city. Beneath the dim streetlights, Ji-hoon held Ara's hand, this time not to keep from being separated, but as a promise consciously chosen. Ara smiled, her breath visible in the cold air. And for the first time, they allowed their friendship to learn how to love without fear of loss. In a Seoul that was quiet and full of light, they understood that love born from friendship is not a betrayal, but the most honest continuation of a long journey shared together.